I did it with Assassin, so it was only a matter of time before I jumped in front of my microphone and started bitching about another class that I feel has been neglected to an insane degree, the Sorcerer. Looking at its stats, which are all pretty damn high on average, as well as having access to amazing items like lmao and vesture, you'd think that the class itself is actually pretty decent. And I'd honestly be inclined to agree, but that's looking at it individually. When you bring the Summoner into the debate, I think that things change quite a lot. If you compare the stats between the two classes, I'd personally say that the Sorc wins out, but that doesn't even matter because of how good the ability of the Summoner is. Let's go ahead and compare the two. The Sorcerer's ability is the Scepter. In essence, when you activate the ability, you will shoot out a bolt of lightning that will chain from target to target, the maximum being 6, assuming you just have maxed wisdom. You do also have to keep in mind that the damage values decrease per target. For example, the first target that is hit by the Scepter will take the full amount of damage from a T7 Scepter, being 428, but the 6th target would only take 225 damage. And keep in mind the MP cost for one use of the Scepter is 95. After actually looking at the numbers and using them in game afterwards, I myself was pretty surprised at how underwhelming tiered Scepters feel. And yes, while they serve as a source of AoE damage that whittles amounts of enemies down slowly, with a mace I feel like I'm able to achieve the same thing without much difficulty. In terms of UTs, you have the Devastation Scepter, the Nigeria Rod, and Foamy. Deva serves as a single target damage scepter, doing around 940 damage at 60 whiz. The Nigerian Rod's damage increases based on how many targets there are, and Foamy is just one of the best slows in the game, and the Siege Scepter is essentially a dazing EP with a fairly long cooldown. When I compare the UTs of the Sorcerer to the Summoner, all of them for the most part seem fairly lackluster, apart from Foamy, which I'd say is about even if not slightly worse than the Mace of Devs. The Summoner has the Oryx Eye Mace and the Hive Mind Mace, which both encourage and reward a more close-ranged aggressive playstyle with the ability to clear out groups of enemies, though you do have to be fairly close to them. The Sprite Mace serves as the intended AoE mace, as the Sprite trees themselves have a range of 10 and deal fairly good damage. The Mace of Deaths is straight up the best slow in the game, and the Incubation Mace. That's it. The Mace of Deaths is a better slow than Foamy. The Devastation Scepter gets put in a blunt by Incubation in terms of single target damage. The Nigerian Rod is good for clearing out large amounts of enemies, but I'd say that the Sprite Mace serves the same purpose as the Scepter. I'm also willing to argue that summons melt enemies so fast that you can just hop from enemy to enemy and get similar if not better results. The Siege Scepter gives utility in the form of Daze, which is an amazing status effect, but it is on a fairly long cooldown. Keeping UTs, tiered abilities, and the fact that the classes both have access to the same weapons and robes, I can say with 100% confidence that this is a situation where a class completely overshadows another. In my opinion, the Sorcerer's niche is to deal damage to a large group of enemies at a time. The thing is, though it may be slightly harder for the Summoner to do the same, and by harder I just mean jumping from enemy to enemy or using the Sprite Mace, it still does the same job. On top of that, the single target damage that the Summoner possesses completely blows the Sorcerer out of the water. I'd say that the only other case that I can think of a class overshadowing another is the Warrior and Ninja post Enforcer nerfs, but even then I think the Ninja has enough differentiation to somewhat take it out of the Warrior's shadow. Everything that the Sorcerer can do, the Summoner for the most part can do absolutely better. And the thing is, I think that the classes are so similar to a point where rebalancing would be an issue unless an overhaul / rework of the abilities are implemented. The point I am trying to get at is that it feels like there isn't really any reason to play the Sorcerer over the Summoner, looking at the numbers. You should always play whatever you feel like is a fun class to you, but when another class is so similar and objectively better, it doesn't feel rewarding to play the class at all. And this part is way more subjective, but to me the Summoner feels a lot more fun to play in comparison to the Sorcerer. Scepters don't really feel interesting, which is ironic because the Summoner is just click and drag for the most part, but it feels way more rewarding and fun to play in my opinion. It feels like the Sorcerer was not kept in mind at all with the implementation of the Summoner, and I feel like it will feel invalidated for a while before any change is done. Like I said earlier, simple number redistribution probably won't be effective, but I think that a Scepter rework, or more setups that just do something different or allow Sorcerer to fill a new niche within the game would probably be more effective. For the last part of the video, I just wanted to talk about blueprints. I touched on this briefly in my item forge video, but I want to expand on what I was saying. The item forge was added to the game to lessen how RNG can be when farming for a particular item. Now obviously, if every single blueprint was automatically in the forge without having to do anything in game, it'd probably be a little busted. The current method of obtaining a currently limited amount of blueprints is through, you guessed it, getting lucky enough for it to drop. This contradicts the entire point of the forge. It only served to support the thing it was supposed to mitigate. On top of this, an insane amount of blueprints still haven't been released. So if you want a void bow blueprint, you pretty much just have to go fuck yourself, even though there is an omni blueprint. On top of this, when blueprints are released, the method is kinda scuffed. If I recall correctly, the last set of blueprints that Deca made drop included Potato, Breastplate, and the Crystal Wacky, and this was a few months back. The other method is through campaigns. Seasonal items such as the Incubation Mace make sense, however the Colo and mseal blueprints that were released during Christmas make no sense at all. Breastplate and Potato drop, yet Colo and mseal don't for no good reason, and it's especially rough because Colo is one of the most sought after endgame wires. If there was more communication on what their plan is with blueprints, then I wouldn't be bitching, but unfortunately that isn't the case. And like I said in the Forge video, if I could make a change to how blueprints are released from now on, it would be based on completions. The completions needed would scale based on how good or rare an item is. For example, something like an Oreo blueprint could require something like 100 Penteract kills. It gives players genuine motivation to hit the target number of events killed, rather than just having people hope it drops eventually. So, that was my last round video. I appreciate everyone that's been supporting the videos, it truly does mean a lot to me. I'm getting burnt out with the game and that means making content is less enjoyable for me. So from this point on, it's likely that there's not going to be another round video on this channel unless something insane happens. Going forward will probably just be general commentary on shit that I find interesting, because I don't think I can really get burnt out on that. So yeah, again, thank you for all the support you people have given me, and yeah, thank you very much for watching, and make sure to enjoy the rest of your day or night. Take care.